What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this, 7 inches of snow is about to bury New York City while California drowns under mudslides and flooding? And here's the twist nobody saw coming. This isn't even the coldest part of winter yet. 70-degree temperatures on Christmas Eve. People riding bikes in December. Does that sound normal to you? Because what's coming next will shock you, and I promise you'll want to stick around for what I reveal at the 5-minute mark about February. It's something meteorologists are quietly watching but not talking about publicly yet. Right now, winter storm watches cover Pennsylvania. Not just a few counties. We're talking massive coverage. Winter weather advisories stretch from the upper Midwest all the way back to the Dakotas. And California? Friends, I don't even know where to start with California. Here's your first shocking number. Winter storm warnings, flood warnings, and flash flood warnings all at the same time in one state. When was the last time you saw that? Mudslides tearing through Southern California, rock slides blocking highways, heavy rain pounding through Christmas Day, and on top of the snow they already have in the mountains, add a couple more feet. But here's what's really interesting. Stay with me because at the 30-second mark I promised you something. And here it is. New York City's official forecast calls for 7 inches of snow. Let me say that again. 7 inches. When's the last time the Big Apple saw that kind of prediction? Now you're probably thinking, okay, snow in winter. What's the big deal? But here's the twist at 15 seconds. This pattern we're seeing isn't normal. It's not following the usual winter playbook. Let me paint you a picture. Northern New Jersey, 7 inches. Southwest Connecticut, 3 to 5 inches solid. Get up toward Peekskill and those numbers shoot up even higher. Meanwhile, temperatures across 20 to 30 states hit record warmth for Christmas Eve. Something's not adding up, is it? Your brain hates unfinished stories, so let me ask you this. What happens when record warmth collides with Arctic cold? We're about to find out, and the answer at the 3-minute 20-second mark will change how you think about this winter. Think about the children of Israel wandering in the wilderness. 40 years of unpredictable weather, manna from heaven one day, quail the next. They had to trust in provision they couldn't see coming. Sometimes nature reminds us that we're not in control, doesn't it? That there's a bigger plan at work. Here's another number that'll grab you. 0.3 of an inch of ice. That's the forecast for the mountains of Pennsylvania and western Maryland. Doesn't sound like much, does it? But 0.3 of an inch causes power outages. Trees snap. Roads become ice rinks. And here's the problem forecasters are wrestling with right now. Precipitation-type issues. What does that mean for you? It means as you head toward Harrisburg, Philadelphia, State College, Pittsburgh, you might start as a mix. Not pure snow. Not pure rain. A mix that makes driving treacherous and forecasting nearly impossible. Let me tell you about the models, because this gets fascinating. The NAM model, which is one forecaster's tool, did something wild on the early morning run. I looked at it and thought, what in the world is going on here? It showed numbers that looked nothing like the other models. So here's your question to ponder. If computer models worth millions of dollars can't agree, how certain can we really be? The answer's coming. But first, more shocking data. The European model shows a big snow event. The GFS model? It wants to crush you with a foot of snow. The National Blended Model tries to find middle ground by averaging these forecasts together. That's where the 7-inch forecast for New York comes from. Consensus building. But remember what I promised you at the 5-minute mark? Here it is, February. The weekly models have been showing something meteorologists find really interesting. Colder temperatures, not just a little colder. Significantly colder than what we've seen so far. Now I'm not jumping on the cold train saying this is how the entire winter ends up. We'll see too many rebounds over the coming weeks. But here's what's undeniable. There's a lot of cold air locked up in Western Canada right now. Historic cold, way below average. Let me give you a number. 0 degrees. That's the forecast for overnight lows across Wisconsin as we head into next week. Highs on Tuesday struggling to get out of the 20s in many areas. 30s and 40s all the way into the south by Tuesday afternoon. North Florida. You listening? You're probably going below freezing. When's the last time that happened this early in winter? The cold makes a run at the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic Coast. It's been a while since we've seen that across this region. But here's the part that connects to something bigger than weather. In Genesis, God established seasons. Summer and winter, cold and heat shall not cease. There's order in the chaos, pattern in the unpredictability. What looks random to us fits into a design we can't fully see. Here's more data to chew on. The Sierra Nevada could see heavy snow at times through the day. Not light dustings, heavy accumulation. But Colorado? They've been so dry this year. Videos coming out of the ski resorts are depressing when you see bare slopes where normally there'd be packed powder. You know what's interesting though? There is some snow in the forecast for the next couple days for Colorado. A bit of a rebound. Not much, but something. Sometimes the smallest mercies matter most, don't they? Temperature rebound coming into the northeast too. Back above freezing. Looks more like a rain-ice mix as we head into Monday with this next area of low pressure moving toward the Great Lakes, pulling up warm air. Behind it, cold air pushing down. This front pushes all the way into Texas. Follow it down through the Gulf Coast, states into Florida. On the backside, the European model does something weird with snow back across West Texas toward El Paso. Makes sense theoretically on the tail end of the front, trying to develop some lower pressure with precipitation and overrunning moisture. But here's your next question, the one your brain wants answered. Is the pattern changing? Are we looking at more mid-Atlantic type storms? The pattern would support it. The North Atlantic oscillation getting into a more favorable phase suggests yes. Remember, don't miss what's coming next because here's a twist. High pressure sets up and we dry out. This ridge persists into next week. Pretty warm too. Above average temperatures across the Rocky Mountain region. Then again, relief probably happens as we head into the end of next week. Let me walk you through this step by step. Snow totals for the northern areas, outside the mountains, not a lot. But northern Alberta over the next couple days could see some decent snow. That cold air has to come from somewhere, right? It builds up in Canada, sits there getting colder and colder, then whoosh, down it comes. Here's a number that matters. 60 degrees. That's what temperatures hit across Ohio in December. Let that sink in. Warmer across the south while it's colder in the northeast and Great Lakes. But that warm air squeezes north up through the Ohio Valley and into the Great Lakes and Midwest. Tuesday's low temperatures tell the story, near or below zero across Wisconsin. 30s, 40s, and 50s as that cold pushes all the way down. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for those of you who love long-range forecasts. As we head into January and February, the weeklies have been showing something that catches attention. The 7-day height anomalies, which is a good way to look at the pattern, show much colder conditions. You've got more of a northwest flow, upper low polar vortex, sitting there spinning, pulling in colder air. It's a cold pattern, not necessarily historic cold, but definitely colder than what we started with. Here's the part I want you to really hear. The European Ensemble Weeklies, showing 7-day averages 7 days before January 22nd, reveal a lot of cold in the east. Central US shows a lot of warmth. That's a different pattern than what many expected. Maybe there's hope for precipitation in the west. As you get a little bit colder, you get more snow and more rain. That's just how it works. Once we get into February, and we're looking really far out now, so take this with appropriate caution, there's starting to be some changes. Little bit warmer up across Alaska and the Northwest Territories. My question is, does that mean we tap into what that upper-level pattern says when we bring cold air further south? These are 7-day averages looking colder in the east. Across the west, a little bit colder too. And here's the wild part, doesn't this look similar to what we're dealing with right now? Long-range forecasting isn't an exact science. Don't expect this to be a precise snow forecast for your backyard. These are trends. The trends at this point look colder in the east, colder than what we started meteorological winter with. Winter's only officially a few days old. Remember, warmth across the central US continues. Let me bring this full circle with some wisdom. Ecclesiastes tells us there's a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens. Sometimes we want spring when it's winter. Sometimes we want warmth when cold is what's needed. The ice forecast deserves attention too. When forecasters say 0.3 of an inch, someone evaluated that. A human looked at the data and said, this is significant. Mountains of Pennsylvania, western Maryland, that ice causes problems. Power outages aren't just inconvenient, they're dangerous. Here's something to consider as we watch this unfold. The bust potential is high on the southern side of this system. What does bust potential mean? It means forecasts could be very wrong. Too much rain instead of snow, too little ice instead of too much. The uncertainty itself is information. Mixed precipitation, sleet eating into snow totals, especially back toward Trenton, maybe even up to Newark. Getting close to New York but might eat into those 7-inch totals. That's the forecasting problem. That's why meteorology remains part science, part art. The NAM model doing NAM things. There's a saying among forecasters about the NAM. It has a reputation. Sometimes it's spot on. Sometimes it's way off. This morning it showed something that made me shake my head. But here's the beautiful thing about multiple models. They keep each other honest. The European on board with a big snow event. The GFS wanting to crush with a foot. The blended model finding middle ground. Consensus matters. Winter storm watches. Not warnings yet. That means this could slip away. It could diminish. It could intensify. The uncertainty is real, and I like to keep it real with you. As you get further south and west, precipitation type issues increase. You may end up with more of a mixed bag. No winter storm watches for areas that might still get impacted pretty heavily. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, all the way back to Fargo and north to the Canadian border, winter weather advisories are up. These are U.S. advisories. There's ice falling into northern Montana through Christmas Day, too. California's situation deserves its own discussion. So many warnings. Winter storm warnings, flood warnings, flash flood warnings, mudslide problems across Southern California, rock slides, heavy rain through Christmas Day, unfortunately. Couple of feet on top of what's already fallen in the mountains. If you're hoping for colder temperatures, you're probably going to see that. If you're loving warm weather, anywhere in the south or east outside the northeast, it's been really warm. Incredibly warm across maybe 20 to 30 states. Probabilities of seeing temperatures 10 degrees below average start getting much stronger across the south as we head into next week. Bit of a rebound. Then it looks like we reload again as cold way below average across western Canada and Alaska gets tapped and brought south. Here's your step-by-step guide to understanding what's coming. First, watch the current system move through. Second, pay attention to precipitation types in your specific area. Third, prepare for the temperature drop behind the system. Fourth, watch for the pattern change heading into January. The conflict in this story is between record warmth and Arctic cold. The resolution comes in waves, not all at once. Each cold shot followed by a rebound. Each system bringing its own character and challenges. Think of it like the parables. The sower went out to sow seed. Some fell on rocky ground. Some on good soil. Weather works the same way. Some storms produce exactly what's forecast. Some fall apart. Some overperform. The pattern is reliable even when individual events aren't. Progressive pattern developing. Does that lead to more storms? The setup suggests it might. More to come as conditions evolve. The freezing rain across Montana, southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba could cause issues too. Not just snow. Ice is the silent troublemaker. It accumulates slowly, then suddenly you've got problems. Snow totals further north. Again, outside the mountains. Not a lot. But northern Alberta over the next couple days gets some decent action. The cold builds there first, then flows south like water finding the path of least resistance. Christmas Day temperatures tell a story of contrast. Warm across the west, work your way east and you find the problems. Where snow and ice develop, where travel becomes hazardous, where preparations matter. The pattern definitely a little bit colder. However, not much change across the Rockies immediately. You get some precipitation now. Might get a little more heading toward the 2nd and 3rd. Then back to a warm pattern before flipping the script with some precipitation by the 4th and 5th. Looking really far out now, so take it with appropriate skepticism. The idea, though, is that things get progressive. The North Atlantic Oscillation getting in more favorable phase supports more active weather for certain regions. 7-day height anomalies paint the bigger picture. Once we get into next week, into January, things get interesting. Much colder. Northwest flow. Upper low polar vortex spinning there, pulling in colder air, cold pattern developing. Not historic cold necessarily, but look where it's really cold, Western Canada. If that cold air wasn't locked up there, many would throw in the towel on winter. But there's a lot of cold dropping in. Starting to see pieces of that show up on longer range outlooks heading into January. What I don't like, across the plains where it's been very dry, this region probably stays warm. Some cold shots coming, but it looks similar to December's setup. Northwest flow coming in, cold Arctic air setting up, getting waves of cold that move through. Earlier outlooks from back in fall discuss this possibility. Maybe a bust on the East Coast in terms of warmth. Might actually be colder than maps put together back in September and October suggested. But let's be real, looking 3 months down the road, we're still looking pretty far out. European ensemble weeklies showing 7-day averages 7 days before specific dates reveal interesting patterns. January 22nd's averages show a lot of cold in the east. Central US, a lot of warmth. Little bit different than some expected. Hope for precipitation in the west as things get colder. More snow, more rain, basic meteorology. Once we get into February, really far out, changes starting to appear. Little warmer up across Alaska and Northwest Territories raises questions. Does that mean we tap into what that upper-level pattern says? Do we bring cold air further south? January into February. 7-day averages looking colder in the east. Across the west, little bit colder. Looks similar to current conditions. Not a lot of major pattern changes immediately visible. Pretty wild to see long-range consistency. Trends matter more than specifics at this distance. Trends look colder in the east, colder than meteorological winter started. Winter only officially a few days in, warmth across central U.S. continuing. Don't expect exact snow forecasts for your backyard from long-range models. These show trends, tendencies, possibilities. The value is in pattern recognition, not pinpoint accuracy weeks out. As we wrap up, remember this. Every storm tells a story. Every pattern shift has meaning. What looks like chaos often contains order we simply can't see yet. The cold locked in Western Canada didn't get there by accident. It's building for a reason. The warmth across 20 to 30 states on Christmas Eve happened for a reason. The collision between these air masses creates the weather we experience. Understanding the battle helps prepare for the outcome. Your next steps are simple. Monitor forecasts for your specific area. Prepare for travel impacts if you're in winter storm watch areas. Don't panic, but do plan. Stock up on essentials if significant ice or snow is forecast for your region. For those in flood zones out west, stay alert. Flash flooding and mudslides develop quickly. Don't take chances with rising water or unstable slopes. Here's the teaser for what's coming. As we move deeper into January, the pattern I've described becomes more established. That cold air in Western Canada has to go somewhere. When it moves fast. The next update will show you exactly where models think it's headed and what that means for February. The really interesting part, what I haven't fully revealed yet, is how this pattern potentially sets up for late winter storms. The kind that catch people off guard because they come after weeks of mild weather. The kind that prove winter isn't over until spring officially arrives. Are we looking at a February surprise? The data suggests it's possible, more than possible, probable in some regions. Which regions? That's what we'll explore in detail next time. The conflict between what's happening now, the warmth, the flood, the isolated snow, and what's building in Canada, that epic cold waiting to surge south, sets up the next chapter in winter's story. Stay vigilant. Stay prepared. And remember, whether it's 7 inches in New York or 70-degree bike rides on Christmas Eve, nature has a way of reminding us who's really in charge. There's comfort in that, isn't there? Knowing that beyond the forecasts and models and uncertainties, there's a creator who established the seasons and declared they shall not cease. Winter storm watches remain up. Models continue calculating. Forecasters keep evaluating. And somewhere in Western Canada, Arctic air keeps building, waiting for its moment to sweep south and remind everyone that winter, real winter, isn't cancelled. It's just getting started. That's where we are right now. That's what's coming. And that's why you'll want to catch the next update. Because the best part of this story is still ahead.